Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging headfirst into, well, a true titan of literature, Fyodor Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment from 1866. And yeah, this isn't just like a standard book review. Our mission here is really to cut through the density, uncover the core ideas, maybe some surprising facts, and why this classic still matters. We're talking about a novel set in the grim and suffocating streets of St. Petersburg, Russia. It's legendary for its intense psychological exploration, morality, guilt, redemption, all of it.
Absolutely. And our goal today really is to give you a quick but hopefully thorough understanding of why this deep dive into crime, punishment, and, well, the human conscience itself, why it remains so profoundly significant.
So let's jump right into the story then. We meet Rodion Romanovich Raskolnikov. He's described as this brilliant but impoverished former student, holed up in a tiny rented room in St. Petersburg. But it's not just poverty driving him, though that's definitely part of it. He's also kind of obsessed with this twisted philosophical theory, this belief that, extraordinary people have the right, maybe even a moral obligation to commit crimes if it leads to some kind of greater good.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating idea, dangerous too, isn't it?
It absolutely is a very dangerous idea. And that belief drives him to do something terrible. Raskolnikov murders Alyona Ivanovna, this greedy old pawnbroker. But things spiral really fast. He unexpectedly ends up killing her innocent half-sister, Lizaveta, too. She just walks in at the worst possible moment. And what's truly fascinating here, I think, is how the novel immediately pivots. This isn't a whodunit. It's not really a detective story at all. It becomes a psychological drama. So even though Raskolnikov gets away, physically speaking, his guilt, it just doesn't let him go. It completely consumes him, leads to delirium, paranoia, really erratic behavior. Dostoevsky makes that internal struggle so palpable for the reader, you almost feel like you're in that fever dream with him sometimes.
It really does feel like that. Yeah, you're trapped inside his tormented mind. And it's through this struggle, this internal chaos, that we meet some unforgettable characters. There's Sonia Marmeladov.
Yeah.
She's this humble, devout young woman, but forced into prostitution. She becomes his confidant, his moral compass, in a way. Then you have Porfiry Petrovich. He's the intelligent, really shrewd detective investigating the murders, that cat and mouse game he plays with Raskolnikov. It's pure intellectual tension. Brilliant stuff. And finally, Razumikin, Raskolnikov's loyal, good-hearted friend.
Yeah.
He seems to represent kindness, stability, everything Raskolnikov isn't really.
Right. And as that psychological pressure just keeps mounting, Raskolnikov is wrestling with everything. Confession, justification, trying to find some meaning in it all. It leads to this really complex philosophical confrontation between crime, guilt, and ultimately the hope of redemption. It's so much less about what happened and more about what it does to his soul, what happens inside.
Okay, so now that we've got the story laid out, let's dig into the major themes. This is what really makes the book more than just a crime story, right? This is where it gets into some, well, deeply unsettling territory, but also quite profound.
Definitely. A key revelation Dostoevsky offers is this incredibly deep dive into the psychology of guilt. Through Raskolnikov's intense internal conflict, the novel shows that guilt isn't just a feeling. It's a destructive force. It physically and mentally corrodes him. It basically proves that even the most brilliant intellectual justifications, they're just powerless against the raw, almost animalistic agony of a violated conscience.
Wow. So it's not just a moral lesson he's teaching, it's almost like a physiological breakdown of the self. That's a unique take. And then there's that theme of redemption through suffering.
Yeah.
How do you think that lands today? For a modern audience, does that idea still resonate? Or does it feel maybe like a concept from a different era?
That's a really important question. Dostoevsky certainly presents suffering as a potential path to spiritual purification. Sonia, she embodies this. Her unwavering faith, her compassion. She becomes that beacon of redemption for Raskolnikov. She believes fundamentally that true repentance requires embracing suffering, facing it head on. Now, contemporary thought might often seek to avoid suffering, right? But Dostoevsky argues that in facing it, one might actually find a deeper truth about oneself, a path to spiritual renewal. It really challenges our more comfortable notions about how we escape our past actions.
Okay. And what about Raskolnikov's central idea that extraordinary man theory, this idea that great men like Napoleon are somehow above conventional morality? The novel doesn't exactly endorse this, does it?
No, not at all. Not even slightly. Dostoevsky profoundly critiques this philosophy. He exposes it as, well, a dangerous trap. The extraordinary man theory, which initially seems to promise ultimate freedom and power, it ironically just isolates Raskolnikov completely. Dostoevsky reveals that this very isolation, far from empowering him, becomes his ultimate punishment in a way. It robs him of the human connection that's essential for any real redemption. It forces us, the readers, to ask, if, God is dead, as Nietzsche would later say, what anchors morality then? And what's the weight of absolute freedom if there's no inherent purpose?
Interesting. So it really does prefigure a lot of that later existentialist thought.
Exactly. And you also have to consider the setting, the harsh, stratified society of 19th century St. Petersburg. It's this stark backdrop that really illustrates how poverty can degrade people, how it influences their choices, their morality, and Raskolnikov's deep isolation. It isn't just about being physically alone. It's presented as this existential despair, this feeling of detachment from humanity, a sense that life lacks inherent meaning, which, ironically, fuels both his extraordinary man theory and his crime. It lets him believe the normal rules just don't apply to him.
That's a powerful mix of personal and societal forces at play there. And Dostoevsky brings these incredibly complex ideas to life through his really unique writing style. Let's talk about his craft for a minute.
Well, his writing is dense. It's psychological, deeply layered with philosophical discussions. You can't just skim it. And when we talk about his mastery of stream of consciousness, it's not just simple inner monologue. It's this chaotic, almost feverish torrent of unfiltered thoughts, anxieties, self-justifications. They often contradict each other. It mirrors a mind spiraling out of control. You don't just read Raskolnikov's thoughts. You feel like you're trapped inside his tormented psyche. It's intense.
Right. And the physical setting, that claustrophobic atmosphere of St. Petersburg, it perfectly mirrors his mental state, doesn't it? Dark, oppressive, feverish, almost like another character in the book. But, despite all the heavy subject matter, Dostoevsky does sprinkle in moments of compassion, hope, even some dark humor. It gives a fuller picture. It's not just relentless gloom.
Absolutely. And every character is so meticulously crafted. Raskolnikov himself. Brilliant, yet so deeply flawed. His arrogance leads him to the crime, but his conscience just relentlessly drags him toward confession. The novel never gives you easy answers about him. He's a murderer, yes, but his suffering evokes the strange kind of pity, that constant tension, villain and victim, idealist and criminal. It creates this profound moral ambiguity that forces us, the readers, to question our own judgments.
That's a great point about the moral ambiguity.
Yeah.
Dostoevsky's a master at that.
And Sonia, she's the symbol of humility, faith, unconditional love. She plays such a pivotal role in his moral journey. Porfiry Petrovich, the psychological detective. His cat-and-mouse game, as you said, adds huge intellectual tension. And Razumikin, the loyal friend. He represents that potential for a moral, happy life. The life Raskolnikov could have chosen, maybe.
Yeah, it's clear Crime and Punishment is a masterpiece. But like any really profound work, it does present some challenges for the reader, right?
Oh, absolutely. Its strengths are undeniable. That profound psychological insight, the philosophical depth, the complex characters, the moral ambiguity we mentioned, and just a rich depiction of 19th century Russian society. It really delves into the dark corners of the human psyche with a precision that's, well, almost unparalleled.
But on the flip side, the narrative can be dense. It can feel slow-paced at times, especially with those long philosophical digressions. And some readers might find Raskolnikov's endless internal monologues exhausting, frankly. I mean, it's not exactly a beach read, is it? It definitely requires patience. Concentration, too, because the themes are heavy and it's a long book.
It certainly demands patience, yeah. But the payoff is immense. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, Crime and Punishment is still one of the most important works in world literature, no question. Its exploration of psychological torment deeply influenced the modern psychological novel and existential philosophy, too. Writers like Franz Kafka, Albert Camus, Jean-Paul Sartre, they specifically drew from Dostoevsky's treatment of alienation morality. They built on his foundations.
It's no wonder, then. It's studied all the time in literature, psychology, philosophy courses for its incredible depth and, its enduring relevance. It just keeps giving, generation after generation. So what does this all boil down to? Crime and Punishment is truly more than just a crime story. It's a profound meditation on morality, free will, the human soul itself.
Exactly. And while it demands patience from you, the reader, the psychological intensity, the ethical questions it forces you to confront, and that eventual path towards redemption, it makes it an unforgettable experience. It really resonates deeply. It's a journey into the darkest parts of human nature, but somehow it still leaves you with a glimmer of hope at the end.
So thinking about Raskolnikov's internal struggle, especially with that extraordinary man theory, what aspects of his journey towards confronting his conscience resonate most with your own understanding of right and wrong? And maybe the true cost of taking moral shortcuts? And what stands out to you about that idea?
finding redemption through suffering, particularly in today's world. Something to think about. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.